Okay, we got a little melted wax in the pot. I'm going to try to pour. First set oftentimes doesn't come out. You find out problems with the molds. You have to address them, but we'll give it a shot. I had a little trouble getting some good waxes with these molds, and I ended up opening up the little hole a little bit. I ended up using the hair dryer to make them warm before I pour the wax. Ended up using a different type of wax. This is mostly sprue wax, which melts at a low temperature. And I wish I would have put a vent in them, but I didn't. And I ended up pouring it. I was trying to pour it fast, but really you need to pour it real slow down the edge so the wax can go in one edge and the air can come out the other edge.
I tried to gravity pour the little inner latch mechanism a couple of times, but it didn't work. Same problem. The wax would freeze before it would get everywhere. So time to pull out the wax pot and warm it up.
This is the pressure pot I bought on eBay. It's probably as old as I am, but it works fine. Haven't used it that much, but I like it. I use it on this latch part, and I might start using it more. Basically, it's just a pot with built-in heating coils that melts the wax. It has an air chuck up top where you can put a little pressure on it, and then it has this little valve down here. When you push on it, it releases hot wax. So I'm gonna I tried to pour this part gravity 2 or 3 times. It wouldn't work, so I gave up and I got the pressure pot out, and it worked the first time, and I did 4 in a row, so I'm gonna do one just for a video.
After we had 2 good waxes of each one, we bring them in the wax room and usually have to work them over and clean them up a little bit.
The real. Oh. It has a thin spot right here where I can see through it. It has a thin spot inside. There's a couple of thin spots. Can work on those. This one came out well. I need to fill up that little hole at the end of the latch part. The hinges I've been messing with and getting them cleaned up, filling in little divots, but they're all pretty good now. It's okay to have a wax bump, but it's not okay to have a wax hole, because then you have a bronze hole and then you have to weld. If you have a wax bump, then you have a bronze bump, and then you just have a little more sanding to do, which goes really quick with the bronze. So I've attached a little sprue to each one of the little wax casts. It's kind of interesting. You can see the original wooden tapered hole that I made in the mold to pour the wax, and then you can also see where I cut the hole bigger with an X-Acto knife. Wax copies all the little details. So I will attach these to the pour cup and put enough vents to make sure that they flow good, and that's the next step. I've got all the waxes screwed to a cup. I have a vent on each one. Some of them need a vent, some of them don't, but it helps kind of stabilize the contraption during the first couple of dips when it doesn't have much strength. Put the little strikes, the little plungers in the middle. They're very small. The middle of this mold will hold the heat a lot better than the exterior. When I take it out of the furnace and put it in the sand pit, the middle will stay hotter, so they're more likely to flow well. I've got 2 of each one and 3 of one. I'm not sure which one, but we're getting ready to go start the dipping process. Okay, I don't have my tripod with me, but I'm going to try to do this one-handed. I'm dipping it. This is called a suspended slurry. Got to get the air out of all these deals. Okay, so everything has a coat on it inside and out. Let it drip for a minute. I'll do the other one. Okay, and that one is coated inside and out. I'm going to dip it in the fine sand. First 2 coats to be fine sand. After that, we'll go to the coarser sand. And that's it. Hang it to dry. Did the first dip yesterday. I didn't have my tripod with me, so it was kind of hard to get decent footage. So I'll try to do a little better today. I have my tripod. So basically, you just have to let it dry real good between coats. So if I was here all day long and had the fans running and the air conditioner sucking the humidity down and I have a dehumidifier, I could probably do 3 or 4 dips a day. But typically, I do a dip and then I leave it lunch, so I just do 1 dip a day. I say I dip it in sand, but it's really not sand. It's a man-made product called fused silica. And it's in different grits. There's a coarse, well, there's probably a dozen grits, but I just use 2. I use a coarse grit to build up bulk and make it strong. Then I use a fine grit to pick up surface detail in the first two dips. These are a little tricky because they want to hold air in these little cavities, so I got to make sure that I get coverage on everything. And then I hang them up to drip a little bit. Get the other one. And they're kind of fragile in the beginning, especially if it's cool, because the wax gets kind of brittle, and if you bump them they tend to break, so you got to be real careful in the beginning. But after you get a couple of coats of dry, they get pretty stout. So this one's ready to go. I have air coming in the bottom of my sand, which kind of fluffs it up. Makes it easy to work with. So I mentioned that they're kind of brittle in the beginning until you get them built up. One of them broke off. It's savable. I'll let this coat dry and I'll weld it back on there. It'll be all right. Five dips down, maybe 3 to go. At this point, the ceramic shell is stronger than the wax, so we're on easy street here now. If I bump them, we don't have to worry about them breaking. It's a real camera. I bought a real camera. Up until now, every single one of my videos has been done from my phone, as most people can probably tell. Could have bought a fancier one, but I'm really hard on this stuff. I've already got paint on this one. It's like 1 day old. So first I upgraded with a microphone, then we got a new computer, not my choice. Then we have new software to do the videos, and now I have a real live camera. So maybe they'll get a little bit better. So 8 seconds after I was bragging on my new camera, I got a note that said the little card was full, so I'm back to using the phone. These are ready to be burnt out, and theoretically, I could unscrew the hook. Well, I know I can unscrew the hook. I can put it in the kiln just like it is, and everything would burn out, the plastic cup included, because it can't take that heat. But the problem with melting out wax is when you warm up wax, it expands, and the ceramic shell does not expand. So you have the potential of cracking the shell. Well, you have a pretty good chance of cracking the shell, and especially because this wax that held the hook, it's about 1 inch thick, and all of this wax is more like 3/16 thick. So this wax is going to melt before this gets soft, and it's going to want to expand, and it'll have nowhere to go, so it'll crack the mold. So before I put it in the kiln, I take the torch and just warm up the cup and remove all of this wax, and at the same time I remove the plastic cup and clean up this edge. And I have had very good success ratio of burnouts without damage to molds. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to grind this edge to clean it up, and then I'm going to put the torch and get this wax out, and then we'll put it in the kiln and do the burnout. So the first thing I did was I took the grinder and I removed this ugliness and the part that was covering the edge of the plastic cup on this one. So now you see the cup's free to come out, and I have a strong edge here, so when I pour the bronze I don't have to worry about little pieces of ceramic shell breaking off and going in with the molten bronze, because even though it's liquid, it's still heavy, and it has the ability to break little pieces off. So I'll grind the other one and clean it up. So now all we're going to do is put the torch on it, apply heat until that big chunk of wax falls out free, and the metal embed. Both of those will come out, including the nasty melted plastic cup. It'll be clean and ready to put into the kiln. I always melt wax over water when you catch it. It doesn't make quite as much of a mess. I'm lucky enough to be able to do this outside, so let the fire rip. It doesn't hurt anything. That's plastic cup coming out of there, and a little bit of ceramic shell. Turn the torch off for a second. I was hoping we could see, you can see the nut that the hanger weld that screws into, and the nut is welded to a little plate that's embedded in that wax, and that's what holds the whole thing up when we're doing the dip. Okay, this is what holds the whole deal up when we're dipping, and that's why the wax in the cup is so thick, to embed this to make sure that it doesn't move. Now the wax is all removed, at least the bulk of it. I'm going to put it in the kiln. Feels pretty hot. Again, the kiln floor is open, so the melted wax can drip into the water underneath. Put the second one in. and I'll light the second burner. This is the reclaimed wax from burning out the cup. It's very dirty, but we'll clean it. And you can see the wax falling into the water from the remainder of the mold. The water keeps the wax from sticking, and it puts out the fire because it's almost always on fire. Temperature in the kiln has been running about 700 degrees. The bottom door is still open, and the wax has pretty much quit dripping, so I'll close the bottom door and the temperature will jump up real quick. And I'll try not to let it get above about 13 or 1400. So my steel frame, my steel floor then work, and we'll finish burning out the molds. Well, since the wax is gone now from the mold, guess it's time to end this video. Next video will be messing with the bonds.